So we're going to start kind of jamming around this idea of if you're a $5-10 million brand and you're scaling, what are some of the problems that you're finding? What are some of our experiences in terms of working through those problems, and like what might we recommend? Where I wanted to start, Connor Rowland's prepared a really awesome KPI sheet that kind of I think might illustrate some of the KPIs that change over time, what you should be focusing on. So I don't want to tee up too much here, Connor. Why don't you jump in on what you've prepared? This will be made available to participants of this online event, so it'll be sent to you afterwards, but Connor's going to talk through it a bit now and we're going to jam on it.
Yeah, let's do it. How do I saw the share. Oh, here it is, share. Great. All right, let me figure out if I can share this. Sweet. So yes, I have found this to become incredibly valuable for me and my team as we've scaled and we're just doing more, we're managing more people, there's more work going on. I put together a little scenario here. Basically the idea behind this is like, just be intentional about the core objectives or rocks that are going to allow you to hit your revenue and efficiency targets. Like that is ultimately what we're trying to do here. In order to do this, you need to prioritize the work effectively, what's going to move the needle, what does not move the needle, and ultimately get the entire team rowing in the same direction. So I put together a little scenario here that I'll briefly breeze through. Let's say you're a lean brand, you've scaled to 8 figures in revenue off of meta ads, but like once you hit 3 million yearly spend, you just start to see meta ad efficiency taper off. Even at the same spend levels, you're starting to see the efficiency taper off. For a long time, you were able to ride your existing creative without launching a lot of net new. But based on the data above, you're kind of realizing now that you need to launch more creatives to unlock new audiences, drop your CPA, so on and so forth. So let's say one of your objectives for the year is to build a stronger creative flywheel that produces more diverse creative to get in platform blend and blended CAC down from Y to X, whatever that is. And then let's say one of your other objectives is to launch new channels in order to achieve the same key results. So basically, I like to then take this and organize it into a spreadsheet. And the way that we have this organized is like we set our rocks at the beginning of the year, but on a per channel basis. And then we do quarterly sprints on the key results and initiatives. So basically every single person has their own tab here. So there's a ton of clarity and ownership of who's doing what. And the whole idea here is that the objectives are the high level tactical things that you're going to do for the year to move the needle on your revenue and efficiency targets, i.e. build a stronger paid media creative, a stronger meta creative flywheel, test new channels. The key results in the initiatives, these are the smallest units of measurement that ladder into these objectives. These is the actual work you're doing. And your key results are just measurements that are indicative of whether or not you're doing the objectives. And your initiatives are the granular unit projects that ladder into your key results. So as you can see here, these all ladder into each other. And the whole idea here is just to create extreme ownership on who's doing what and how it ladders into the overall picture here. So for example, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 objectives here. Key results that are indicative of improvement against these objectives. Well, improving Northbeam reported 30-day click CAC from X in Q1 of 25 to Y in Q1 of 2026. You're setting a target to optimize against. And then maybe another one is improved blended CAC from X in Q1 2025 to Y in Q1 2026. And then you actually move into the specific initiatives that your team, a single person, is going to own here to move the needle on these things. So hire creative strategists, work with necessary external partners, launch 5 new batches of creator-led ads, shoot and launch a founder ad set, launch new ad account structure that's advantageous for creative testing. There's probably 100 things you could do here that are going to allow you to move the needle. But the idea here is that this acts as a filter. It's going to allow you to say yes to work. It's going to allow you to say no to work. And then the last bit here is status updates. Now, how does this become like a working, living, breathing document? This is what I review with my team every single one-on-one we have. Before the one-on-one, at least 24 hours before, for every single key result or initiative, they're giving it a green status, a yellow status, or a red status. They're adding context onto each status and why they're ranking it what they are. And that just allows us to have incredibly strategic, incredibly pointed one-on-ones where we're actually like, everyone's probably been in a one-on-one. We're like, God, this is a waste of time. The whole idea on sprints, and it has been an absolute game changer for just making sure everyone's working on the most important work and just rowing in the same direction.
Awesome. I think this is a fantastic template. far more structured than what I'm doing at Ridge. So I'll be subscribing to the newsletter to make sure I get access.
Right.
If you're Connor, if you were to put yourself in the shoes of a 10, $20 million brand who wants to double, triple over the next, 24 months, is there maybe like a single either key result and or initiative that you would maybe recommend someone focus on?
Well, yeah, what was the revenue scenario?
Let's say, $15 million a year, they want to get to 50.
Honestly, I think most of the time it's doing more of what got you there better. Like this example that I just gave, I don't think that's unique to a $10 million brand. I think brands all the way between 10 to 100 million have this issue where like they see their core channels start to fatigue. And like, I think you can reignite those core channels by creating better asset flywheels for those channels, right? So it's like, hey, we need to build a stronger paid media creative flywheel. Well, like go set key results around launching more creative, improving one-day click ROAS, hiring the right people. Like I think it's often just like taking those things that maybe you're doing 50% out of 100 and getting them to 75 and 80%. And you might not have to, expand into new tactics as quickly as you think you do.
Totally. Okay, I love that. Those were the two that stuck out to me. Hire creative strategists, and then you had one around just launching more performance creative. It's a pretty evergreen initiatives and key results that everybody's basically always working on.
Yeah, exactly.
Sweet. All right, I want to kick it to Brian Bumgardner here, Senior Director of Growth at Northbeam and author of the Media Buyer Newsletter. On this idea of brand scaling from low 8 figures to mid, high 8 figures, 9 figures. As most people are likely familiar, Northbeam is a first-party ad performance data platform. Why is something like that relevant for brands trying to break through that $10 million or so ceiling?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say like, most people are familiar. I would say actually a lot of people are not super familiar with the name that's kind of been thrown around here and like why first-party data matters. So, Connor even mentioned like, oh, you're tracking your Northbeam KPIs, right? So like, I would say the number one blocker, like if you're trying to do any of the things that we just mentioned, where you're trying to understand which ads are working, what you need to scale, you really need to be looking at unbiased independent data on your ad performance. Like Northbeam has been thrown around on operators and we've been here with you guys for such a long time that I think we take it for granted, but there's a lot of people out there that still don't necessarily understand like, hey, maybe I need something more than just looking at Meta's data itself, right? So like, everyone go Google right now, like the walled garden problem, right? So if you've never really run into this before, like give me 2 minutes. There's this thing about customer journeys where people don't operate in a vacuum. People are having touch points all across everything. You're watching television, you're on TikTok, you're on Meta, you're on Google, you're walking around the world seeing billboards, you're retail shopping, right? The problem is none of these ad platforms are going to talk to each other ever. They're not going to, right? So a lot of people who run into these problems where you have multiple ad platforms claiming credit, but you only have one sale, one conversion, right? So I can remember like 10 years ago, everyone always being like, when I would start consulting with someone, they'd be like, why is it that I have 3 times as many conversions when I add up all of my platforms than what I actually have? And I was like, because they're all taking credit, right? So all of these decisions you're trying to make, a lot of times you can start and do really well just with relying on, let's say, just metadata or being a one-channel brand or whatever, but you're going to run into this ceiling. And I've seen it over and over and over again, especially around the 20 million mark. If you're selling, let's say, a 50K like AOV or a $50 AOV product, you're going to run into this ceiling all the time where you just can't ad creative optimize yourself out of a corner because you just don't have enough good data, right? So the thing is, if you're using first-party data like Northbeam, you can finally connect all of these walled gardens together and understand your true customer journeys, and that's going to give you those metrics you need to rely on. So for me, I would say the number one issue is data. It's data quality. It's data integrity. If you're trying to run incrementality tests, media mix modeling, MTA, or even just basic daily ad optimization off of profitability or something like that, if you don't have accurate data on how your ads are actually working, it's just not going to work. And yeah, you're going to look at your platform data for certain things, but really what you want to rely on is an independent, unbiased set of data that's going to give you that kind of pretty serious, hard look at what's happening in your business so that you can make the right choices and kind of quit guessing. So that is the thing that I see as like the ceiling that a lot of businesses run up against. That the earlier you start the better, right? Because it's like planting a tree that you're going to sit under later. So the earlier you start collecting this data, the more nuanced your decision making and your ad performance is going to be. So that's my big thing. I've been preaching this for years, and I'm not going to stop now.
Awesome. Yeah, love it. So Cody, I'm curious, you have obviously been a long-time Northbeam user and have thought quite a bit about analytics and attribution. Like what has Jones Road's journey been with first party data, and where do you guys value the importance of like some sort of standardized form of measurement?
Yeah, I mean, always. I remember like early in my career, I was like freelancing and working for a brand. And I remember like doing like monthly reporting, and I'd be like, hey, I don't know why the total is adding up to more than our Shopify revenue. Like, let me dig into that. And I thought it was like a bug, but like just didn't understand attribution flaws and incrementality, and having just one source that your team can look at and is just like their operating system is extremely important. We look a lot. We're always trying to get new visits to site, new traffic. One of the things I love about it is you can see the 1 day click. We like a 1 day click is our metric, which you guys do as well, versus a true new 1 day click, because platform reporting isn't going to have a new versus repeat. And then percent of new visits is great. And then also love the ROAS lift, which coined that from Connor. I never knew what to call it before. But those are just like some of the big ones that we look at that I think adds a ton of value compared to just looking at in platform, to help us understand and get a little bit closer to incrementality or like new customer acquisition that platforms don't have.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's a bunch of like really unsexy like value propositions of Northbeam, I think. Like even percent new visits is a great one. If you look at Google Analytics, it'll say 50% of your SMS traffic is new. And it's like they were on the site to give us their phone number. And then you'll see it in Northbeam, and it's like 5%. Just like not only, I guess that's a form of first party data, but also just having the network to better stitch together all these different sessions and devices, I think just gives you as good of insight as you can have into truly how people are moving between channels and platforms.
And I think we've all peeked under the hood of a brand that is not using Northbeam multi-touch attribution and come to the conclusion of, hey, you guys are investing way too much into brand search and remarketing ads, and they're pulling out of Meta in YouTube because the GA4 last click that they're using to make their decisions like just fundamentally does not like reflect their business model. So like I can't emphasize that enough. I think like almost any brand that you come across that's not using an MTA, I feel like there's always some level of misallocated spend because what they are using is just not aligned with the business model and like what they really need to be doing.
100%. Love it. So on the topic of paid acquisition, which we're kind of hitting at here, Syed, I've got a question for you here. Paid acquisition, it's in a precarious position, like basically all the time. We are very much at the whims of Meta CPMs, privacy laws, et cetera, et cetera. There's also a lot of noise in the space with new channels like AppLovin, and there's just general experimentation risk. So my question for you is, where do you think brands should actually be focusing to protect growth in 2026?
That is a phenomenal question, and it's keeping a lot of D2C operators up at night right now. I'm going to share my screen really quickly and kind of show you how we've helped there. But to your point, like just to put it into perspective for some people, over the last 8 years, like CAC has skyrocketed 220%. So it's not just like a seasonal trend or like a tough quarter anymore. This is generally a shift that we're seeing. And when costs go up like that, brands are kind of like forced to either lean into one of two options. Option number one is you raise your prices, which can harm conversion. Or option two is you keep your price the same, but then you're eating away at your margin. So the way that I've kind of always looked at paid media is that it's sort of like a rental, like a landlord analogy. You don't really own the customer. You're sort of just paying for their attention from Meta, Google, TikTok. And right now, landlords are like raising that rent constantly, as you guys are hearing. And so if your entire growth strategy is basically dependent on you winning an ad auction, you're in a very like dangerous spot. So the question is not like, where do I find cheaper clicks? It's like, what do I do after the customer actually gets to my site? And that's why I tell brands to focus on this here, which is the transaction moment. So this is the cart, the checkout, the post-purchase, and the thank you pages. So at this stage, it's really important because you've already paid for this customer to come to your site. They've shown you that they have intent, they have their credit card out, they're ready to pay. And we have a lot of brands that we previously worked with that are just like, okay, orders confirmed, see you later, and thanks for shopping. And there's just so much revenue that is sort of left on the table. So this is exactly where Aftersell and Rocked has kind of helped a lot of brands with this rising CAC increase. So we monetize these pages here, the cart, checkout, post-purchase, and the thank you pages. A lot of these optimizations, guys, come at no cost. So they're just pure AOV lifts for our merchants. On average, across the 50,000 merchants that we work with, we see about a 30% increase in AOV. So my advice is still like diversify your ad strategy. Definitely want to, keep investing in your paid spend, but at the same time, you really need to lock down and focus on how you can capture the most in the transaction moment.
I love it. I was having this conversation recently with someone. We were talking about scaling just over time and all the headwinds that come with that, like the rising CPMs, rising CACs. We've ran Ridge under the assumption CAC will just go up over time. And like the best way to hedge against that is to like build more leverage off like post-click, driving up AOV, expanding margin, building LTV, things like that. So Connor, I've got a question for you. I know you guys are thinking about this all the time. Whether it's Aftersell or any other forms of like post-click optimizations that allow you to spend more dollars on Meta, because that's what it's all about. You have to be becoming more efficient so that you can tolerate higher CAC, so you can continue spending on Meta. That's like the treadmill that we're on. So what are like any other tips or suggestions you'd throw out here?
Yeah, I mean, we're Aftersell customers, of course, and I was just looking yesterday, and like just in the last 30 days, six figures in incremental revenue, and we've absolutely done some optimizations with it, but it really is one of those things that like you set it up and it just starts getting you more revenue, and it just fits so nicely into existing consumer journeys, and it's not that different than another like product rollout strategies. Where like last year we rolled out a lot of products that are very complementary to hero funnels we have. So we rolled out kitchen utensils, we rolled out steamer baskets, we rolled out splatter screens. These are all products that really complement our hero 12-piece and 6-piece sets. And it's really not that different from a tactics perspective. It's like we don't have to do a ton of more marketing on top of what we're already doing to really get a bunch more juice out of those new products or something like Aftersell. So I think it's like a no-brainer to set up. You can optimize it, but you don't like have to out of the gate. Like if you're saying, oh, I don't have the time to optimize it, or someone on my team doesn't have the time to optimize it, like that's fine. Having it is better than not having it. And then one step further is like very robust lifecycle marketing. We have a pretty broad category now, or we have a big breadth of categories, I should say. So we are pumping people into first off, we use order editing. So like via email, after you get your order, you can actually edit it, and like you can also add more products, and that drives incremental revenue. And then we have very robust cross-sell flows and upsell flows. So we have like general category awareness, and then after that, everyone gets funneled into a category specific one. So those are like our core tactics for driving incremental revenue on top of like what we're already doing pre-purchase.
Awesome. Yeah, I'd love to hear it. I think this is a good segue. I'm gonna go a little bit out of order. We're gonna hit Cody's AI stuff in a bit, but this is a really natural segue into what Avi's doing it pretty damn quick. We're talking about building leverage, whether that's in Aftersell, post-purchase checkout, or we do a lot of PDP upsells, things like that. Avi's PDQs focus on optimizing the checkout. So as most brands obsess over getting traffic to checkout, which we're talking about now, but then treat the checkout as quote unquote good enough, what are you seeing, Avi, across billions of checkouts a year that tell a different story?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a continuation, a lot of the theme that you guys have been saying so far, which is how do you find a way to make more money without spending money? Right. And checkout really is where everything clicks. Let me just pop up the screen and get it out of for you. So when most folks, I would say the vast majority of people, if you ask them, they'll tell you that Shopify's native checkout is limited. I can't do anything with it, can't make any changes to it. But in fact, there are virtually unlimited possibilities, and that's really where our magic lies. We're able to look at the entire customer journey from intent, trust, economics, urgency, fulfillment, inventory, weigh all these things in and influence the journey. Now, what blows my mind, and I know everybody here will look at brands that spend $50, $80, even $100 to get a shopper all the way to checkout, and then they serve everyone the exact same static checkout. Same shipping offers, same upsells, same messaging, whether you're a first-time visitor, returning subscriber, high value, someone who bought 6 times, all get the same generic checkout. And when we look across our data, the gap between a good enough checkout and an optimized one, it's not a rounding error. It's 15, 20, even 30% more in profitable revenues. And of course, it's not one magic bullet. It's a collection of many things, showing the right delivery promise at the right moment, surfacing free shipping threshold when someone's just a few dollars away, removing the steps that create the friction, brands that treat checkout like a living, breathing conversion engine, the ones that constantly test and personalize, they're pulling away from everyone else. And that's what we're doing here at PDQ. Our platform isn't just optimizing or A/B testing checkout, it's infrastructure for continuous optimization.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think that hits a lot of points, and I think we're on kind of a good little trend line here. Cody, I'm curious on either of the other two. Let's stay on this topic of like building leverage in the business post click. We talked about after sell, post purchase upsells. We talk about fully optimizing the checkout. And are there any other anecdotes you can provide around examples of that and or other opportunities brands might be overlooking?
Always, like, it's this constant struggle between like scale and efficiency, and like what Connor R said, like you do have to accept the fact that it's just a law of physics of D2C brands. Like your CAC is going to go up, and you have to build a business that supports that. And it's either volume outweighs it with contribution margin or repeat base. But you also can't get complacent, and you have to attack it and do everything you can to prevent it from going up over time. And that's obviously ad testing, landing page testing, and then just everywhere along there, there's just so much margin to be had. And we work with after sale, PDQ, we do a bunch of stuff on our own. Like we're just wrapping up a free shipping threshold test right now. We're actually going to likely lower it, and we wanted to make sure we're trying to get actually more volume there, right? We think we can acquire a lot more customers if we have lower, but we want to know what impact that's going to have on revenue per session, profit per session, and then be able to have strategies to make some of that margin back. And like we're even looking into like how even like our shipping prices and delivery methods, right, to get it all tied together. I just think you have to be looking at every step of the funnel. You have to do it strategically because you got to prioritize, but I think just looking at every step of the funnel and where can I add extra 10 cents or whatever it is. So big time doing that with PDQ, big time doing that with after sell, and then doing that just on the rest of the site as well. But you've got to be, you just can't be complacent about it. I know you know it because you were like a top 1%, I think, or like 0.1% of intelligence like top testing. So I know about it.
We were the 100th percentile, so I think that puts us number one. Cody, you had an interesting anecdote. You were talking about how shipping cost thresholds was affecting the conversion rate on different basket values. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, a lot of people talk about like AOV, and this is a cool thing with AI, like using it to, there's so much data, and we're actually able to get better insights of using Claude to analyze stuff that would normally take a lot of time and weeks. But really trying to dive deep into all the different segments and customer behaviors. I'm like not just looking, okay, conversion rate went up, but it's like why, on what segments, what products shifted, things like that. Because I think there's just a lot more insights you can get to guide your future testing. And so, yeah, like we, in the middle of this test that we're running, like what we saw and what we're seeing right now is like AOV is actually not changing that much. It's not going down that much. Where our free shipping threshold before was $85. It got a lot of people from 2 products to 3. And a lot of those that raised our AOV, but it actually wasn't on a high percentage of our orders. Our modal order, our most often order, was actually closer to like a $35 to $40 order. And our threshold, there was just so much volume of abandoned carts that was happening there that even though by AOV it looked good and 85 was the highest, we were probably losing a lot of people, especially new customers that they were too far from. And so we tested a bunch of different ranges, and 55 for us is like the sweet spot, where now the most common basket, people are they're getting free shipping, so they're converting a lot better. or they're close to the threshold, so they're incentivized to get higher, which helps, AOV. And so even though like the average is not, it's just not telling the whole story, and just being able to kind of dive deeper into that has been really helpful.
100%. And to go back to kind of the original question we were posing around 10, $20 million brands figuring out ways to grow to 50 million plus, I honestly think a lot of what we're discussing now are huge strategies in enabling brands to do that. For Ridge, a lot of our early strategy was dropping, this is all like super back-end stuff, dropping COGS, increasing prices. Just like increasing margins so we could tolerate higher CACs was a massive reason we were able to go from $15-20 million a year in 2018 to 200 plus this year, is just building the leverage and the margin that allows us to do that. The two that I'll also highlight, we ran an interesting test recently. If people go to ridge.com and add items to their cart, they'll see a lot of like recommended items in the Ajax cart, and it gets a little bit hectic and a little bit cluttered sometimes. So we came on, we were like, we should just make sure that this is good. So we like ran a test where we were hiding like these different modals that pop up in the cart, and we saw a 4% drop in average order value. That's a 4% drop in revenue just by like a couple product recommendations in the cart. It's like, it's almost an 8-figure business. So I would stress all of that, those post-click optimizations, whether it's in checkout stuff, post-purchase stuff, shipping cutoff stuff, cart upsell stuff. There's a lot of value to be had there. Anybody want to talk on post-click optimizations? Otherwise, we're going to get a quick sneak peek of Cody's new AI landing page building system.
I was going to ask about segmentation. Is that
go? No,
right?
Let
So
it rip.
on the segmentation side, I know that we think about segmentation really in a really detailed way. We understand the customer when we place ads, and so much of what drives our spend is based on how we understand the customer that we're trying to attract into our site. One of the things that Cody has helped us better understand is if you're able to look at a first-time customer differently than, let's say, a returning customer, just that distinction, when you raise prices, right, or when you look at your shipping costs, or when you think about offers that you're making or free shipping thresholds, by being able to look at segments differently, it'll transform the economics of your business, because it really isn't one size fits all. So it's no longer thinking one strategy for my entire business, but who are the individuals coming? And if we're going to touch on AI, eventually you really want to be able to provide a one-to-one experience for every single customer. If you know the customer's in a hotel, for example, and they're checking out, you want to give them the option that's going to get them the product when they want it. Or if you have someone that just had a bad support experience, you want to be able to help them. So segmentation, I think, is something that's really underlooked and undervalued, but is such a big driver.
Could not agree more. Yeah, and we've talked about this. I think a lot of brands right now, just websites are largely static. So at best, we have some like the best like global option for customers, when in reality it's like there are millions of different kinds of customers, and the more and more personalization and segmentation you can do, the more and more value you can unlock. It's an exciting time, I think, to be in e-com. But Cody, let's see the AI landing page builder.
Well, let's do it. So I'll set the stage a little bit. Obviously using Claude Code, going deep. Taylor Holiday talks about this, like he's done some reaction videos to ours. I don't totally agree with him on the growth side, whereas like you like your head of growth and creative strategy and everything will merge. Like, I don't think we're there yet, but I see the vision in some areas, and I still see it on growth, but like ecom zero, I see it. Like, I fully believe we're a few months out and just some hacking away from like being able to just like massively speed up our quantity and velocity of testing with AI, but also the not just that, the quality as well. Like the things that we're able to train, if you've used Claude and played around with it and have it take over your browser and build these skills and files, like the stuff that you're able to train it on in like an hour is like what it would be like a super high level VP of e-commerce that you would like only expect for them to be able to get and know. And so just trying to think about the whole workflow. So like, I think AI is already better at research. I've given it access, you can get access to GA4 via MCP, you can get it, Shopify access, you can get it, intelligence, MCP, all that kind of stuff. You can kind of consolidate all of that in one place. You can have it take over your browser to get stuff. Any trainings you have, if you have like granola notes from your team, or you have resources on best practices, you can feed it and be like, hey, I want you to look up UX best practices. It'll be like, hey, all right, this is the store's Baymard best practices. It'll go train itself. These all become kind of skills and files. So what I have right now, I guess I should try to share my screen if that's possible. Let me try to figure that out. If not, I'll just talk through it. But Connor, you did it before. How do you do this?
Cody, it's up left.
It's in the
Up
top left.
It
Yeah.
is-
Yeah.
Second from the top, hit screen.
Perfect. The one that says screen. All right, share this real quick. And I have a ton open, so I might have to take some time to click through. Number one is just building a roadmap, right? And so I was able to build a roadmap that takes all of that stuff, every principle that we have. And also, if you guys, I'm a big fan of user research, interviews, stuff like that. That is all data, super valuable. So you can just train it on all of that. It built an ICE scoring framework. And so it essentially, impact, confidence, effort. Any new idea that we have gets added to this. Maybe we'll actually like drop an idea in Slack and have it scored and then added to the roadmap based on that. So to me, it's as good a roadmap as I've seen from really any agency. And obviously, its strategy is super important, but also ideas, right? And so it kind of has a little, explanation and things like that. But having the strategy for the roadmap is super helpful. So research done, roadmap is done, then you got to go execute, right? You got to write a brief. Well, AI is really good at writing briefs, so that's easy. Design and dev, I think, has been the harder challenge. And that's where I've been trying to crack away at. Claude's really good at dev. And I'm curious, as I actually start pushing some of this stuff to Shopify, what the code quality is. But design has been really challenging. And so I've been trying to hack away at that. One of the keys is building a design system. So hopefully you guys have that in Figma, right? This is just like a HTML file, but where you have like so much of AI is building these files, and they're called MD files or markdown files. And this is just a visualization of it where you have all of your rules, because it just takes time. It's like your master prompt or your skill. So building that design system as a markdown file, and it just takes time hacking it and going over it over and over. Eventually you can kind of get code and you just hack it and you're just like, hey, that doesn't look right. That's wrong. Use our font, use it here, like the same way you would with the designer, but just taking the upfront time to do this. And this is really where I've been. I think AI is getting so much better so quickly. We're like 3 months ago, like I couldn't do. I mean, I literally did this today. I had a 6-hour flight out here, so it helped. And then as of yesterday, they have the Figma MCP where you can actually push files from Claude Code into Figma. And so I was actually able to get it there. I can do very basic Figma stuff. And again, like this wouldn't normally be me. I'm just testing it to try to do it. Where like I was able to change the fonts in here. Because we have, the thing with this is we're not going to put it on our site unless it looks 100%. It's not like getting it 90% of the way there doesn't really help you that much. And so I was able to get it in here. I have our actual design system open, right? Where I was able to go in and like get the exact font and spacing and stuff like that. You can then push this back to Claude, which I've done here. So now this is just a local HTML file, just some tiny tweaks I'm trying to make. Once you get that, this is slightly, more technical, but you can push it to GitHub. You can download your theme and connect your theme, push it to Shopify, obviously do it correctly, have your devs kind of, look into it and inspect. But I think we'll just be able to compress the, I don't need to share my screen anymore, but I think we'll just be able to compress the testing, because the biggest blocker for most people is like, I think ideas are fine. I think anybody can come up with more ideas than not. You got to make sure the ideas are good, but I think AI can do that. But usually I'm sure you guys probably have the same, where like design and dev take a long time for this stuff, and if we can go from needing design and dev, whatever, I'm not trying to like replace a dev agency. It's just for the testing side. Like I really think like a mid-level CRO person, ecom manager who has access to these skills and the right mindset, like can just like run the CRO program themselves, versus you used to need 4 or 5 people.
Right. And that's your vision for it, is like you've like fully empowered one mid-level, non-technical, performance-oriented, web marketer to like execute on the full stack.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's the goal.
Okay. I like it. Super, super exciting. Thank you for running everybody through it. Brian, I'm curious on your side. You're obviously looking at a lot
Can I tell you what my real goal is It's a spite store. It's a spite goal. If you've seen
Yeah.
Curb, I just want to be the number 1% of IntelliGem's testing velocity.
Yeah, got it. You're trying to overthrow us. Yeah, dude, sounds like you're on the right track. We're not nearly as AI enabled. But Brian, I was going to kick it to you. You're looking at a lot of brands on the Northbeam side. Northbeam, obviously, extremely analytical and data oriented. There's a lot of AI opportunities for you guys. Like, what are you seeing taking shape either on the brand side, on the analytics side, or what you guys are doing internal at Northbeam?
So in terms of like what customers are doing or what we're up to?
You can take it whichever way.
Perfect. So a lot of people are really excited about like AI media buyers, right? So like I think the dream is, yes, you've got all your dashboards and exploring is fun and doing what you want, but if you had an agent that you could really trust with your data set that would tell you what you wanted to know and you actually trusted it, that I think is the thing that is a tough nut to crack. It's pretty easy for attribution platforms or whoever else to kind of throw an LLM on top of something and be like, look, like you can ask it questions and it'll tell you what's going on in your data, but like, so can an intern, right? Like it's not any better than what I currently can do myself, and that I think is the secret when you're like, oh, okay, like I want to use agentic tools to analyze my performance and tell me what to do with my business. The problem is the variables are so insane there, and the paths to victory and the paths to failure, which is like the way that I kind of frame it for your business, are so different that it's really tough to know just from one tool, like, hey, this is what we should do. Now, that's not stopping me from trying. So stay tuned on what like Northbeam is up to and what we're working on. But a lot of people want that agentic thing and they just can't get it. Where we're seeing success with agents right now is the optimization of like testing stuff. So like the stuff Cody's up to, a lot of people are doing that and really enjoy that. The verdict is still out on like generative ads, but where I definitely know people are succeeding is using various agentic tools, whether it's Claude or something else, to speed up their editing and to like optimize that. So I see there's like 15 different ways to do it, but that is proven. Everybody loves it. That works. Whether or not like AI generated ads work is kind of like a case by case basis per business. So that's the stuff we see going on. Once again, you hear me saying it depends, which is my favorite answer. So yeah, stay on the newsletter, and like the first we hear about that stuff, we're gonna box it up and ship it to people. So
Perfect. Yeah, super excited. Yeah.
So on the we have I agree a lot with Brian. We're seeing so much evolving, but because we're checkout savants, we see a billion checkouts. We know exactly what to anticipate collecting the data. We created this tool called checkoutindex.com. It's free. It'll give you some indication. You can go there, click to checkoutindex.com. It'll take your site without downloading an app or anything. It'll show you in a nutshell what the power of AI could be. It'll give you some really clear indication without any investment of time, within less than a minute. It'll take the collective data that we have. It'll understand your industry. It'll give you an indication. It'll chop up your site and give you the kinds of insights that you would normally take days, weeks, or never even come by. So over time, I think a lot of the specialization, I think Brian's going to get to this as well. When you combine domain expertise, like a really strong knowledge of an industry, with the AI capabilities, like Cody was saying, it suddenly puts you on steroids. It's not necessarily going to give you, a new being. You're not going to create a new, but it's going to accelerate. I think that's the first stage of AI, is acceleration. Of course, from there, we'll get to prediction. We're going to start seeing things that really are nuanced and brand new. But the first step is just acceleration, and that's so meaningful in the e-commerce space.
100%. Syed, what's your perspective on AI today? And you could take it same question I posed to both Avi and Brian. Either what you're seeing brands do on that side, or within the after sale universe, how are people using it?
Yeah, we're seeing a lot more adoption of it lately. I would say that just like any tool, it can't be the end all be all. So like merchants with after-sell, they can leverage AI recommendations for their first party upsells, which is very common. But what's really great in the merchants that we see success with is that they test the AI recommendations versus their own. So they still will have an idea of what sort of products that they would like to upsell to their customers. And we test that side by side with like really great in-app testing capabilities. You can see if the AI is outperforming what you think would be better for the customer. A lot of times we do see that the AI actually outperforms the recommendations. The second way that we're seeing AI get leveraged pretty heavily is with the rock side of the network. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the rock side of Aftersell, that's where we show third-party offers on your confirmation pages, allow you to monetize those pages. And all of those offers are actually generated by AI. And there's a ton of machine learning that happens behind the scenes, which is why if you've seen those offers, hopefully it's a relevant offer that is tailored towards you. So yeah, whether it's selling more of your own products or leveraging the third-party offers, we're heavily invested in the AI side.
Awesome. Cool. Look, I think we're going to call it a wrap on the session here. Everybody's got a lot to check out. We've got Rock, we've got Aftersell, we've got Checkout Index, pretty damn quick, and we've got North Human and the Media Buyer newsletter. So Connor, Cody, and I do a podcast every week or so. So tune in. If you don't usually, we talk about stuff like this pretty frequently. So thank you guys for joining. We will, see you guys all at the next one.